Howdy, folks, and welcome to a delayed episode 133. I apologize to everybody. Had to get some things taken
No,
care
we
of
just
on
started
my
at
end.
8:30 like we were supposed to.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I had to get some things taken care of on my end. Sorry, I did not announce that we were going to be delayed. So, and yes, I saw at the very bottom of all these comments. I'm not going to read through them. Guess what? I'm going to read through all of them.
Oh,
Real
Jesus
quickly.
Christ, you don't have to read through all of them. Like
I will eventually.
You don't need to
I
read
just
through
won't do it
all of
right
them.
now.
That sounds outstanding.
So, I
Chris
hope
is going to
everybody's
read through all of them after the show.
Yeah, I will read through them after the show. So, speaking of which, how's everybody been doing? How's everybody's week been? Mine's been pretty decent, all in all. Work has been boring as hell, which I guess is a good thing. I know for McMurray, having a boring day is a good thing.
It's certainly not
At
a
work.
bad thing.
Yeah. So, does not look like we're going to have Reese tonight. He's not moving turkeys, but he's still got a lot going on at work. So we're probably not going to have a Reese sighting tonight, and that's okay. But yeah, let me scroll down to the bottom of the messages.
We got a lot of folks in there. It's a good time.
Yeah, yep, yeah, Hexy. It is about freaking time. So I see Scala's here, and Charles, and Telemachus, and Anguilla, and Panther Shadow. I'm sure. Oh, Meandering Mike is there.
Yeah, Jeff.
So Jeffy.
Hexy is here.
Yep. So, what have you been up to, Mr. McMurray?
Oh,
You've been painting like a fiend.
Yeah, I mean, I got before I get off of here, I'll show you guys kind of what I've been working on, and it's approximately Fire and Fury based 15 millimeter ACW to play Rebels and Patriots with.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's good. I like that I started doing it because, for the longest time you could always find used Fire and Fury based stuff. Right?
Right.
And I think that now we're finally getting to the point where Fire and Fury is no longer there's alternate basing schemes out there, and it bugs the shit out of me that I did this, but that's okay, because honestly, it's still a really good basing convention.
Right.
And no matter what, there's still hundreds of collections out there that are Fire and Fury based, so while it might not be as, wildly ubiquitous and universal as it has been in the past, I feel like I'm still probably in pretty good shape.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But no, it's good. So I painted a bunch of ACW stuff. I painted some British Indian mutiny stuff for British intervention forces.
Yeah.
Not necessarily so much intervening on either side, but more kind of in the vein of the Case Orange type stuff, where just like the British were worried about, possible American intervention on behalf of protection of American trade, we've got British intervention on the behalf of British neutral trade and ensuring British neutrality, or the protection of British, interests.
Right.
But anyways, we'll get into that later. The point is, I painted some British guys also. I painted some artillery. Right now I'm working on a couple of small steam launches, because even though it makes no sense to paint vehicles for Warmut's challenge because they're still only worth 1 point. I can't go a month without painting any boats, so here I am.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because that's just madness. No, I don't know that anyone really could expect me to go a month without painting any boats. So here we are painting boats. I got almost all the way through. I only have a few days left, but I couldn't stand myself. So here I am painting boats, folks. I've painted some 28s. I wound up sending several of them to Kev Sharp over at Big Board Wargaming or Big Board Gaming, which you can go check out on his Facebook and stuff. I don't know that he put them on YouTube. I think they're on Facebook and maybe on his blog. But then I did some other 28s that I kind of already put away, which I probably shouldn't have done. I probably should have saved those for pictures and stuff. I don't know if I'll haul them back out. I think I'm sitting at like 180 15s right now. I also painted a bunch of cavalry, which same thing. They only still count for a point each, but whatever.
Sure.
I needed to paint cavalry, so I painted cavalry. But yeah, so it's good times. I'm having fun with this. It's good to like make. So let's put it this way: if it was a Fire and Fury project, it really wouldn't be that significant of headway, right?
Right.
Because for Fire and
Fury,
what's
it's
up?
like almost 1-to-1 for you.
Well, it's just that you need 100 or so bases aside just to start a game.
Right.
Most of the time in Fire and Fury, especially if you're looking at anything remotely larger, right? Because a brigade or a regiment, depending on which one you're playing, whether it's brigade, Fire and Fury, or regimental Fire and Fury, honestly, the system is slightly different, but the model requirements and stuff are designed to be very, very similar so that you can play either one. One just plays significantly larger engagements than the other one does, right? Because you're not going to play Gettysburg with individual brigades having multiple stands. You aren't even going to play Gettysburg with individual brigades. Or individual regiments. I'm sorry, not brigades. Individual regiments. Right. That'd be nuts. Like you can, I know, Jeff. But you're not going to play Gettysburg with a regiment being represented by, anywhere from 6 to 10 stands that are 3/4 of an inch by an inch. That's nuts.
Right.
You'd need to play in a gym floor to start with. But you can do it when, 6 to 10 bases equals a brigade. Granted, you're still having to paint many, many, many brigades. But the nice thing is you can do it, but you're still going to have to paint that many brigades, right? So for just 100 stands of infantry, you still have to paint 300 figures. I tend to not go quite as detail-oriented with my painting as some people do. Just in terms of, I usually prefer, especially doing this stuff, to paint more generic forces than looking into each specific brigade/regiment, so that then I can let the base labels tell me what I'm doing, not necessarily looking at the regiments.
Right.
To a certain extent, it can help with the rivet counters also. That or it just drives the rivet counters nuts. Sometimes if they're relatively, self-aware, then they can go, oh, okay, these are obviously painted, to be used for many, many things, not just one game. But sometimes you don't get those folks. But that said, it's fun. This should be the game that I'm bringing to Wiley War Games weekend, or whatever the Wiley Halloween Jay's birthday adventure is.
Right.
On October 14th. So that should be quite fun. I'm very much looking forward to that. That'll be delightful. I already signed that up with the Baron. So
outstanding.
Yeah.
It does look like I will be making that.
Outstanding.
Yeah, so this coming weekend we got to paint the bathroom. So get to do some scenery work, right?
1-to-1.
1-to-1 scenery work. I'm painting the bathroom. And then next weekend, going over to Kansas City and meeting up with some longtime friends to go to the Kansas City Renaissance Festival. And Warmutt's pussing out. And then the following weekend, of course, is Jay Wiley's Halloween game day thing. And we were unsure if we wanted to do back-to-back trips to Kansas City, and we said, you know what, to hell with it, let's do it. So now I may be driving in there from Illinois Saturday morning, but leave here about 8:00. Get over there by. Well, if we leave here by 7:30, we should be getting in there about 11:00. So.
There you go.
We'll see. Jeffy says he can go without you painting boats.
Well, that's fine. I can't.
Got Eric in the house now. Chris Long is in the house now. Chris Long says Warplane Red is a cool scenario for gaming, for interwar gaming.
I'm sorry, it is red, isn't it? I have my colors all goobered up.
I know about Warplane Orange.
Wait, red is invading Canada?
Yeah, I think so.
Orange is war between the U.S. and the British, right?
No, orange is the U.S. and Florida for their citrus.
Jesus Christ!
I mean Japan.
Okay. Anyways, whatever.
Warplane Orange was Japan.
Whatever a fictional fight between, or whatever a what if contingency between the U.S. and Great Britain, where Great Britain was worried the U.S. might step in to protect their own commercial interests. Right. The idea for this is Great Britain stepping in to protect their commercial interests during the Civil War.
It is. Yeah, apparently, war with Britain was red.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go.
So saith the Canucker.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, you would think. So Niguea says he saw a 1/350th scale World War I Russian ship at a hobby store, and they wanted over $150. What the heck? So a couple of things. First off,
probably an imported
what type
kit.
Of ship was it? What's that?
I said it's probably an imported kit also, which drives that price way up.
Right. And the second question is, what's the make of that particular model? Because 1/350th scale bigger ships ain't exactly cheap.
Yeah, because they're huge.
I know the 1/350th scale USS Texas from Trumpeter is well over $150. So there you have it. Now, what I have not been doing a whole lot of hobbying lately, other than working on my computer. But I did get my M113 series vehicles and M60s resized. So they are now a little closer to size with the size of the Pico Armor stuff. And if you have a 1/100th scale model that you want down to 3mm, it's 16.25%. That's you go from 100% at 1/100th scale to 16.25%, gives you 3mm. So now you know. And I just pulled off of the printer I got these guys here. Now, for whatever reason, they all didn't print, and I don't know why. But I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I've got just over half of the M901s needed for my project. And these are M901s with the hammerhead in the down position. So need to, and not all of those printed either. So I'll have to figure it out. I don't know what's going on with my printer. It's been acting weird lately, even after cleaning and rearranging and whatnot. But yeah. Let me see. Oh, how is Ocean Thunder Rules coming along? Well, I didn't do anything with them this week. From last Wednesday to this Wednesday, I did post my night combat rules. Just night combat rules. I didn't upload a new PDF yet, but on both my Discord in World War II and on the Hissy Cat Discord. So, yes, and I did get Eric the USS Massachusetts as I had promised. So there you go. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. This is what the little guy looks like when he is all said and done. Let me see if I can get it to look a little better here. My M901. As you can see, it's got the little hammerhead turret for the tow missiles right there at the top there. So since only about half of them of the 30 printed, because I only need 30 of them total for the division, I might now turn around and just do another 15 with the hammerhead up. See how that works at 3mm. The problem I'm having is that, like with the M60s, the guns are not staying on because they're so small. It is a Revell 1/350th Russian battleship Ganget.
Yeah, it's probably got a bunch of. It probably has photo etch on it if it's a Ganget class, as well as there's probably a ton of extra sprues in there because that's got what, 5-6 turrets on it.
Just something like that.
I'm about to say, with something that small, I'd have to bet that there's probably a bunch of PE, and there's probably also a number. There might be a bunch of whatchamacallit. There might be some resin castings in there also. The other question is, what detail level is it? Because sometimes Revel's stuff, as the detail level goes up, they increase that stuff. And so you can get two very similar looking kits that have very different price tags.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing here.
Oh, only $60. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. That makes more sense. That makes more sense because I was seeing, like at Super Hobby and HLJ, they were going for anywhere $50 to $60.
I'm about to say Revel doesn't usually do much of that special stuff. Usually there is that stuff for kits, so that's the other thing. You might have seen a Revel kit that had PE parts for it already, like just it's being sold as a package by the store. But yeah,
right.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yep, sure does. Eric, the scale that I'm doing is 1/600th scale or also 3mm. So which is interesting because if I'm not mistaken, no, this has got to be 6mm. No, maybe it's not. How Do you remember how big the Merrimack was? No, yeah, they won 600th. Wow.
Not big. Civil War
So-
monitors were not big. Same with most ironclads. Like,
So, does that seem about? That's an M60 tank. This can't be 1/600th. This is more like.
what?
So I've got a 1/600th M60.
Hang
And
on.
Purportedly, there's no way that this is
What's
got to
that?
be a 1/300th scale. My
What's that?
thoroughbred,
They're
my
1/600.
thoroughbred.
They're 1/600. So the Merrimack was a full-blown frigate, right? Was a screw frigate.
Then these boats are freaking huge.
Yeah.
The compared to an M60 tank.
Yeah.
All right.
They're full-blown barges.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I did not expect it to be as large as it is.
So that's again, that thing's a little bit different because the Merrimack was a full-blown steam frigate, not like a Carondelet or one of the purpose-built
Yeah.
city-class ironclads. Because those were only like 170 feet long. Those were not big at all.
Yeah.
Same with, well, I take that back. The cities were relatively large. Like Albemarle and stuff weren't big at all. Cities were relatively large and had relatively large casements on them. Stuff like Albemarle didn't, what have you. Mainly because you got to think the
Okay.
more it's above the water line and has to be armored, the longer
Yeah.
it's going to take and the fewer of them you can make. Because the unarmored components were not the problem.
Yeah. It looks like, doing my rough math, 262 feet long.
I mean, Wikipedia could tell you exactly how long it is, but yeah. You're good. You don't
275 feet long. So yeah, I'm not too far off.
See, there you go. The fun fact is that that's not too much shorter than Constitution or Victory or your relatively run-of-the-mill large-ish World War II destroyer,
Right.
which are all the same size, which is pretty cool / wild to think about. But yeah,
Well, what's really crazy is that this thing, a Typhoon class, Soviet ballistic missile sub, is the same length, essentially the same length as an Essex class carrier from World War II.
correct. Those things are
Gargantuan.
gonzo colossal. Yeah.
Just, yeah. It's, when you look at something like that, it's like, oh yeah, okay, it's big. But then I have been on an Essex class carrier. I have stepped foot on USS Lexington in Corpus Christi,
And it's huge.
and
It's
that thing's a big.
It's colossal. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
And the fact that the Gerald Ford is shit. What?
Substantially larger than that.
3.5 times heavier, and
Yeah.
probably twice as big. Holy crap!
Easily. Gerald Ford is obscene.
Yeah, they had a swimming
Well-
pool. Yeah, that's where they scrammed the nuclear rods. I wouldn't want to go swimming in that. Just saying. Yeah, Chris Long said they had a swimming pool on those subs. Yeah. And I was mentioning that that's where they scrammed the reactor rods.
Yeah, I saw that documentary with Harrison Ford and Sean Connery, right?
Yep. Great movie. Love that movie. The book is good too. I've probably said this many times before here, but that movie compared to that book was when I realized I can enjoy both and not compare the two.
Correct.
Because you always hear, "Oh, I saw the movie, but the book is better." Well, did you enjoy the movie? No, because the book was better. Then you're missing out.
Correct.
Um, and I know I've said this before, and I will say it again. The Lord of the Rings movies are better than the Lord of the Rings books. There, I've said it. If you want my nerd card, come and pry it from my dead cold fingers.
I don't agree with you, but that's okay.
Hey, you know, not
really
everybody
like-
can be right.
I really like world building books, and those are exceedingly good world building books.
Yeah, you had the word right at first. Excessive. I like world building too. I do, but I don't need 13 pages of the verdant grass blowing across the hills and describing every leaf on the tree and the whole Tom Bombadil thing. Oh my lord! But we won't go into that too deep. Has anybody been watching Ahsoka?
I watched a Super Soko a few weeks ago. Neighbor kids had it out.
There you go.
I feel like you're talking about a normal Soko.
Ahsoka, the TV, the Star Wars TV show.
Oh, I thought somebody was dog sitting.
Well, that would be my dog.
Yeah, Ahsoka.
So yeah, exactly. Skeller Gremlin says Tolkien wrote with all the passion and sense of drama that one would expect from a middle-aged British linguistics professor.
Huh. It's almost like
speaking. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Keep going.
Speaking of world building, I just got Henry's new book. I have not, but I have seen it. I've thumbed through it, and it is quite amazing. It is good.
Basically, everything Henry Hyde puts out is quite fantastic.
Yeah,
I still have not fully explored his Wars of Feltanian Succession and the world building that's there. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I realize that's not the easiest thing to find, even in PDF form now, but highly recommend if you can come across it.
Yeah. I need to reach out to Henry and see if he would be willing to do a Sunday show with us.
That would be quite outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's a pretty cool cat.
We might even get to have an appearance of your baby brother.
Could be. I'll have to work it around. I would have to work it around his guard schedule. Of course. Jay's, not Henry's.
I'm sure we could make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Nguyen says she is hot. Which she are you referring to?
Have you guys seen Henry in a swimsuit?
Oh yeah.
It's not often that they get the appropriate weather over in Jolly Old, but unless you're talking about Jay,
Yeah.
they might be talking about Jay. I don't know, but that'd be weird because it's Chris's brother, dude. Come on now.
Yeah, it is.
It's like when somebody starts talking about your sister.
I mean, we do live in the Alabama of Illinois, but we do not live in Alabama. Hex says Kurt Russell was the real Wyatt Earp. I don't think I can argue.
Are we talking about Wyatt Earp right now? Are we talking about Texas stuff?
I don't know that, but he just popped in with it.
I agree with you, but yeah.
Nguyen says, Skeller Gremlin, do you know of any readings about Tolkien and how his experiences in World War I perhaps shaped his writings? Oh yeah, definitely. He was writing about the world situation between the wars
Yeah, dog. It fucked his brain up, and so he had to make up
Yeah.
an entire fantasy universe, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that it took some experience as traumatic as World War One to fuck his brain up that hard.
Right.
Like, that
Agreed.
sucks. But yeah, man. I'm happy he managed to morph that into something awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm, you know, luckily I've never been in a combat zone. I've never been shot at.
I mean, you
I've
don't
been
have to
shot near.
for to know that World War One would suck.
What's that? I didn't hear what you said.
I said you don't have to have been shot before to realize that World War One would suck.
No. Right. No. But what I'm saying is that I've only been through basic training, and the only thing I have had, I can't remember if it was a 50 or a 30 caliber machine gun fired over my head, about 20 feet above my head, but it was still shot above my head, and I was scared shitless, and I knew I wasn't going to get hurt. I can't even imagine actually being shot at with the intention to be hit, and how that would fuck with somebody. So, yeah. Meandering Mike says, I've been shot with BBs, blanks, and fireworks, but never shot at in anger. There you go. Peter Berg says World War II also had an impact on Lord of the Rings. So, when was it originally? When was it first published? Did anybody know off the top of their brain?
I do not.
Let's take a look here. Lord of the Rings. Let's go to Wikipedia. It's high fantasy adventure. Thank you. Okay. Oh, so interesting. It is a lot later than I expected. It was first published. The Fellowship of the Ring was first published in July 29th, 1954. The Two Towers came out in November of 54, and Return of the King came out in October of 55. So much, much later than I expected. I thought it was like, late 30s, early 40s when it came out. Okay, so maybe that's it because, yeah, The Hobbit came out in 1937. So maybe that's what I was thinking. He wanted to publish in a single volume, and the publisher said, no way. Thank the gods, because that would have been a tome of denseness that I don't think, well, I don't want to say no one would get through, because I know there's a bunch of nerds out there that would have gotten through it. But, yeah. Miguel says, I've heard of Slap and Tickle at Mandarin Mike, but that sure is taking fireworks in the bedroom to a whole new level. He's not wrong. No. But anywho, what are you working on? How close are you to being done with your stuff for Jay Wiley's weekend or game day?
I actually laid out forces last night, and everything that I need is painted and on bases. I just need to decide how I want to base them in terms of if I want to do, for a while there with my 15s, I was doing like just static grass because honestly it doesn't look too bad.
Right.
And it's kind of just one of those like, well, that's a cool, like, ideal way to do this. You know what I mean? It
Sure.
makes it look like they're fighting in open fields, at least where they're standing, and it's not too bad. Especially for mass battle stuff. Like these are obviously put together, based and painted and whatnot to be played as a mass battle sort of thing. So I think I'm going to stick with that. That just means I need to sit down with my flock box and dedicate a few hours, which maybe I'll do on Friday.
Right.
Because there's, like I said, probably 70 or so stands to do.
Oh boy, yeah. Well, I mean that honestly, it shouldn't take you too long.
Yeah, it'll take me an hour and a half or two, depending on how long it takes to set up. It's not going to be bad. It's just not something that I'm necessarily going to do before work Sunday.
Right.
But yeah, so then once that's done, it's just kind of deciding what all scenery I want to use, what play aids I want to put together. Luckily, Rebels and Patriots has a good amount of play aid type stuff already put together.
That's good.
But yeah, so I mean, it's not done by any means, but it's also not something I'm super worried about. Obviously, it's me, so I'm gonna like put shit off until it's crunch time. But whatever, it happens. It'll still get done and get played and be a fun game.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try and get a test game in with Todd, hopefully. If not, certainly a couple of solo test games. The issue with solo test games is that helps you with familiarity with the rules. It helps you quite a bit with familiarity with the rules, right? And the turn sequence, the process of play, and all that stuff. But what it doesn't help you with is it doesn't prepare you to answer those questions that players are going to have, right?
Right.
Because it can help with some, but certainly not nearly as many as you would hope. Because you're really only going to see the questions that you have, and while you might have the same questions as other folks, you're certainly not going to have like all the questions that other folks do. And you're never going to be able to get every question, but at the same time, just getting a question from a different line of thinking, because not everyone thinks the same, can really start helping you to expand on, okay, what am I reading this right? Am I not reading this right? How do I explain this? Like, here's how I think this goes. How do I explain that to someone else? And so on and so forth.
Yep. And thus the reason why I've put Ocean Thunder out there into the wild, as it were, for people to grab a hold of it and at least read it and, question what I've got written there. And
maybe I'll take that up to I might take that to a Big Muddy like Thursday day, because they play a fair number of World War II naval stuff.
Yeah.
And they're pretty open to new things. Like, they've all been playing a bunch of Nimitz recently when that came out from Honor Games by Stan Mustafa.
Yeah.
And that was good. I wasn't necessarily expecting him to jump that hard into a new rule set, but here we are. And then Steve Lowry just dropped down a one-page, if even one-page, Age of Sail rule set that I'm kind of excited to try and take a whack at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But that's, all neither here nor there. We'll have to get into that a bit later on. But I might take that out there and see what those fine gentlemen think, because they are fairly experienced gamers. So at the very least, they might have some good questions.
I'd like to see, and maybe what I need to do is see if I can reach out to bless you.
Thank you.
Adam. Adam Jones.
I'm sure would play it.
And
Adam's been playing Nimitz as well.
yeah, well, he's played it at J3 many years ago.
Oh, okay. There you go.
In a completely, I don't want to say completely different setup, but it's changed enough that it would still be
Like you'd
somewhat new
recognize
experience for him.
You'd recognize the targeting chart, and that's about it.
Right. So what I might want to do is reach out to him and say, hey, what would be a good Sunday for you to meet me down at the game store, and can you bring some of your buddies?
There you go.
So
that wouldn't be a bad thing. I'm sure we can figure that out. They play the first Saturday of every month they play.
Yeah.
They have a whole day. So that wouldn't even be, we could just sign up for a Saturday.
Sure.
I think it'd probably be December at this point, but even so, because they usually cancel the first Saturday of November because they've got Command Con right afterwards.
Right. Todd jumped in and says, McMurray, they'll want to house rule the shit out of Ocean Thunder, which means they like it.
Well, they probably will, but and you don't have to. I'm not saying that they will, and it will be infuriating. But the point is, at least then you're looking at a rule set that
they want to play
is in development, so it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not already all figured out, and
yeah, but it's if they start thinking about how they're going to house rule it, it means they want to play it. So I would have that going for me, which is nice. Excuse me. So, yeah, I need to get down there. What I need to do is I need to print up some more ships and get them painted. Also, I do not have a coherent battle force of any nation at this point printed. Of course, I could probably take down some of my World War II stuff or my 2400 scale stuff, because that's probably what they mostly play in is 1/2400.
I have 800 bajillion. I don't actually have 800 bajillion, but I have a ton of 1/6000 painted and ready to rock.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, have you had a chance to take a look at the night rules that I threw up there?
Yeah, and we talked about them last week. I haven't had time to play with them, no, but I have, obviously been looking at them, reading through them.
There's not a lot to it.
I'm going to see. It almost seems like one of those things that it's better to just kind of make them scenario rules, because doctrinally, basically everyone, including the Japanese, despite the fact that the Japanese did the most training with it, said, for the love of Christ, don't fight at night. But just because you say, for the love of Christ, don't fight at night, doesn't mean you got to obey that. It's just not a good time to fight. Like I said, I'll have to fart around with it. We'll play around with it, see what happens, what works, what I goof up, what's fun, what's not, what we got. But honestly, I think I should have. And that's the thing, right? The other issue is that everybody tries to say, oh well, is it balanced? Does it work? Does it give you a historical result? There's not that much, even historically, to lay night fighting stuff with. Obviously you've got Savo Island, you've got Iron Bottom Sound, but that's about it. you've got the
Yeah.
Scharnhorst getting sunk. That happened at night.
Yeah.
But
Surigao
there,
Strait.
even then, most of your concern, correct. But there, see, you don't have necessarily night fighting in Surigao Strait as much as you've got target control radar, right? And you've got surface search
Right.
radar.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like by that point in time in the war, is it really night fighting, or is it we need to work on rules for surface search and targeting radar, right? Like fire direction radar.
Right.
And that's where, again, at whatchamacallit, at Battle of North Cape, right, where Gneisenau, or was it Scharnhorst or Gneisenau? Scharnhorst got sunk.
Yeah.
It wasn't even. Oh shit! I need to leave. It wasn't even as much night fighting as shooting at flashes and everything else.
Right. Exactly.
In terms of the Germans had all kinds of trouble because some British vessels had low flash, no flash powder, which no flash powder pro tip is never no flash powder, and at night is more low flash powder than no flash powder.
Exactly.
But at the same time, it's still something you have to worry about and think about.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily that blind torpedo firing that you get at Savo Island.
Yeah.
And it's not blind torpedo firing, I know, but at the same time, it's really, really stinking hard to dodge torpedoes when you can't see bubbles in water very well.
Exactly.
It's hard to see anything at night, much less submerged torpedoes.
Yep. So, Chris Long had to take off. Chris, take care, buddy. I know you're already gone, but be well. Have a good dinner.
Later, Chris, buddy.
And Nguyen says, your passion for your game, I find to be inspiring and motivating, and love hearing about it. Well, that's good. I thank you for saying
talking about it.
Yep, exactly.
Well, the other that's the thing, right? Like, do you show torpedoes at night? Like, or do you just kind of roll a die based on how far you think the enemy vessel is, and then it might hit in a couple turns or 2 turns or 3 turns? Right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This is the trial and tribulation, right? Because it's really stinking hard to dodge a torpedo at night. Right? Like, accounts from Savo Island, like, some of those ships didn't even realize that the Japanese had fish in the water or knew where they were or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, holy shit, the ship's on fire.
Right?
Not to steal the catch line of a paraphrased catch line of Nick Moran, but, you know, like, it's certainly a surprise when a fish slams into your ship and you didn't realize that the Japanese were out there, or you thought that the Japanese didn't realize you were there. I'd imagine that's quite the rude awakening, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting concept.
Like, because especially, like I said, it in the early war period, when there's not much surface search radar around, or if there is, it's certainly not, fire direction radar like you get towards the end of the war. Because then, a couple years later, you've got Samar, and ships were able to just, dodge into a rainstorm. Well, Samar isn't necessarily the best example. The fictional, what ifs that people put out about Samar are the best scenario for that. But you get my point.
Right.
If the idea is there that, well, theoretically you could just jump into some clouds or a rain squall And while at Samar, the Americans certainly did jump into squalls to get out of the way of Japanese fire. It's not. I mean, hell, if there was anything big enough, they certainly could have.
Sure.
But I'm not sure that the Americans necessarily had anything big enough to hit the Japanese forces from inside of that squall, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a great point. I don't know that they would have. What would have had the range to reach out of those squalls and actually hit any of the Japanese capital units? Because those 5-inch 38s weren't going to.
Exactly.
And that's the pinnacle of American firepower at Samar is 5-inch 38s.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that depth charges drop from planes, but that's not necessarily what you really want to be rolling with.
Yeah, it's that's one of those that would definitely be a scenario specific situation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it would, and that's the thing, right? It would almost be a scenario specific solution where you would have to play one of the most aggravatingly gritty and crunchy games and rule sets that have ever been written in order to accurately simulate that. And then you basically have to take the Japanese players and just hit them in the head a bunch of times and be like, yeah, you have no idea what the hell is going on.
Right.
Like you couldn't tell them what the game was, right? Because you couldn't say, hey, it's the Battle of Tamar, because then the Japanese, even if they, you handicap them with scenario rules where it's like, oh, you have to shoot AP for the first several turns, they're still just going to bum rush the Americans and kill them. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like you
Absolutely.
have to figure out a way to simulate Nagumo being like, oh God, what's going on? I don't know where everything is or what's going to happen or how many Americans are coming.
Or what's out there or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's got to think Halsey's entire fleet's about to just roll up behind him and hit him in the head with a tack hammer, or else it completely changes how the Japanese forces would play that day.
Yeah.
Likewise, you gotta.
Did we lose you? Yep. Sounds like we. Oh, there we go.
Like just kind of get onto a carrier, and then also yeah, granted, you normally can't, drop depth charges on a battleship, but, here we go.
Why not?
Yeah, what do you mean there's PBYs with depth charges dropping onto, Japanese heavy cruisers? I mean, did I stutter?
But you would have to have like you said, the Japanese players would have no idea what is happening. You just start them off with, you are going in this direction at this speed.
Well, not only that, but you'd have to find people who are capable of playing that detailed of a game who would instantly look at this and be like, oh yeah, this is Samar. Right. Which would be troublesome, because I feel like basically anyone who is going to be that familiar with a game of that intricacy is going to be like, oh yeah, this is Samar. Let's just go kick the shit out of these. Unless you just straight up told them. It almost worked best as like a Kriegspiel type thing, right?
Yeah.
Because, if you're looking across the table and you see the figures, you're like, oh yeah, those are destroyers.
Yeah. Those are Jeep carriers. Those are destroyers.
On the flip side, that's why I like playing with 1/6000, because if you make people stay on their side of the table, you can almost simulate that. Like,
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know what that is,
Absolutely.
but I'm going to shoot at that front vessel,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Exactly.
I
Exactly.
was joking around with Todd at one point in time about putting on a game of Ocean Thunder or some other naval game with 1-6000 stuff, and maybe making the players sit like 10, 20 feet back from the table and use those cheap little toy store binoculars to look at the table. Right?
That would be a bad thing. You want realism, you got realism. If you want realism in gaming, there you go.
Also, I'm going to dump either we're going to hotbox the room and just make it like a gajillion degrees, or I'm going
Right.
to dump icy salt water on you every few minutes, and there you go.
Yeah, depending on whether it's in the South Pacific or the North Atlantic.
Yeah, like, are you out on your flying bridge? Probably. Here we go.
Just take a ice water, a mister filled with ice water.
Yeah. And then every now and then you catch a rogue wave and you give them like the NFL coach treatment.
Yeah, exactly. Tomika says, Command at Sea and Fear God and Dreadnought were the only naval games I ever played, probably least familiar with naval in general. So, I played a fair amount of naval stuff, and either it was way too crunchy or it was way too abstract. And I'm hoping that what I've got going with Ocean Thunder is kind of a happy medium where it's, an actual game that can provide, enjoyment and somewhat historically, I don't want to say historically accurate, but historically viable. Yeah, viable.
It's like that show Rome. It's not necessarily historically accurate, but it's very historically authentic.
Right, exactly.
Like, conveys the feeling well.
Yep. Yeah. So that is what I'm going for. Hopefully that's what we get with it.
I mean, I enjoy I enjoy it. I like how it's frustratingly difficult to hit destroyers sometimes. When you do it, smack them up pretty good. It is also nice because again you get some of those good. I really like how I know Jay tells you to get rid of the grid, but I think the grid and shell point system does a really good job of, giving that feeling of, you're shooting an entire main, or, you're shooting your main battery at something, and if you get a main battery hit, there's a good chance that one shell is going to knock that destroyer out of the fight. But that's going to be a lot harder to hit with than, shooting your secondary battery for that side at it. But the same trade-off is your secondary battery for that side might not knock everything off. So it's, I don't know. I like it. I think that's a really interesting and unique mechanic that once everything around it is filled in, really makes it a good system for stuff like it makes it fun and accessible to play like Denmark Sea. You know what I mean? It makes that you can play in an hour or so without any problem.
Exactly.
You can put 4, 5, 6 ships on either side and still have a game that doesn't bog down at all. Obviously, once you start throwing in, a dozen or so, two, 3 dozen ships aside, you're gonna have a long game. But of course, you're gonna have a long game. Yeah.
Yep. Oh. Telemachus says, yeah, we needed to use a protractor. One of the people in the group is a huge naval fan. He plays at Historicon every year, and we were his guinea pigs. Yeah.
Yeah. I've certainly messed around with homebrewed Age of Sail rules where everybody got issued a compass. Yeah. Yep.
A compass like you draw circles with, or a compass as in I'm orienteering with it?
As in I'm orienteering with it because the wind is coming out of this heading, and you have to be within so many degrees to be reaching, if you're too close to the wind, you're in irons. But that obviously changes depending on your rig and how your ship sails.
Fuck that.
Because, a Latine rigged ship's going to be, able to sail a whole lot closer to the wind than a square rigged ship. And a lugger's going to be on that side of things too. And, you get a good sloop in there. That's a different story. So, yeah, no, absolutely, man.
No, thank you.
It was fun for me.
Yeah.
And like one other guy, the rest of them thought we were absolutely nuts. That's why I enjoyed playing that video game that was around for a little while, Naval Action. Because there was you could straight up switch to controlling the angles of each of your masts, right?
Yeah.
So basically, you'd have the WASD, and then like R and T and F and G and V and B would control each of your 3 masts and where they were faced, which was cool. It kind of sucked sometimes. I never got good enough at doing that. I got pretty good at getting myself out of irons with that, because otherwise you'd be sitting there for, 5 minutes or so, even at accelerated speed, trying to get yourself out of irons.
Yeah.
If your sails were just AI run. But I never really mastered crossing my spars to come to a complete stop real quick.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're getting into just obscenely silly and into the weeds, rope and canvas type stuff right now. But that's not the point. Those games can be fun.
With the right group of people.
Correct. Certainly not as a pickup game. It certainly needs to be something that everybody understands. We're in this to win it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that can really suck. But no, it's not bad. I recently grabbed a Rorke's Drift Hex Encounter game, the one by 3W. It's an older game. And looking at it on Board Game Geek, the complexity is not too bad. It's a little high, but it's not bad. And I was reading that, okay, it's got a Rorke's Drift game and a Boer War game in it. Well, okay, that's kind of cool. I guess they had one game or the other, and then said, oh, well, this game's about a conflict 20 years prior to that, or 20 years following that. We can just put it in the same box. Cool, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because they're certainly not played on the same map by any means. And then I get it, and I'm looking at the back, and Boer War complexity, like 2 out of 10. Oh, okay. It's a little less complex than I thought based on the, Board Game Geek rating. Orc Strip,
Yeah.
complexity like 7 out of 10. Shit. Oh, God. Okay. Well, here's to hoping apparently there is a smaller introductory scenario, so I'll give that a whack, but yeah. I was thinking I may have found a solution to my what rules do I use with my 10 mil problem, but I don't believe that I did, to say the least. I do not believe that I did. But that's all right. The search continues.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, I mean that's all part of what makes our hobby fun, right? Looking for the unicorn, as it were.
Right, and that's the cool thing that I like about historical gaming, is that you're tied to the miniatures or the period, not the rules.
Right.
Like, I know that I'm burning people's sacred cows, but when I'm tied to an IP, that makes me kind of sad. Because a lot of times that means that I'm kind of tied to rules also.
Yeah.
And not always.
No, not always, but yeah, in many cases, if I didn't have, and not to belabor the point that I do so often, but if I didn't have Galactic Heroes, I would be stuck with playing Legion with all my Star Wars figures.
Yeah, Legion or Imperial Assault, or I guess now maybe Shatterpoint. But the point is, you'd be using whatever your figures came with, whatever,
Yeah. Oh, good Lord. Ingwe, you're killing me. He says the only naval action I've ever had was when one of my partners licked chocolate liqueur out of mine.
Oh, gross.
And then he says, so that's what they were doing, looking for a unicorn. And all this time, I thought they were just being kinky.
Jesus Christ on a bike.
Oh, Lord.
I was about to say, you're either stuck to some set of rules, or you're going to be putting in a fair amount of, effort adapting a sandbox rule set to what you're looking for. It isn't a bad thing. Again, I feel like anybody who watches us knows that that's not a bad thing and not a crutch, but sometimes it's nice to just pick up a rule set and play.
Right. Yeah, and I think that is one of the things I like about historical miniatures, is that, once I've got this already built. This is Arab Israeli 67 time frame, 67 73. I can't remember. It's got McGax 6s in there, M60 McGax. And it's I could play I could easily play Fistful of Toes with it. I could play if I really wanted to, I could play damn it, Force on Force. There's plenty of armored games out there that I could play. I don't. There's not a game out there. I could even, if I really wanted to, I could even play from Battlefront.
Birds of a Nation. That's what I was going to suggest.
Well, Fate of the Nation / Team Yankee. It's the same game.
Well,
What's that?
Yeah, I'm my bad. Fate of a Nation came out before Team Yankee did.
Right. It was the standalone rules for Arab-Israeli wars.
Correct.
And to be honest, I enjoyed playing Team Yankee at 6 millimeter.
Correct.
It didn't feel like a parking lot because everything was roughly 30% smaller.
Still not my favorite rules, but that certainly makes
No.
Yankee sufferable.
Yeah. And I think it would be even better. Personally, I think it would be even better in 3 millimeter, but that's just me because
you still
tiny
have
is cool.
Everything else.
Yeah. Right. So and go ahead.
No, I was just going to
say
there's a decent argument to be made that that's the scale Team Yankee is at anyways. So why wouldn't you play it there, right? Like, it's obviously figure scale, but it's rather obviously a more, honest ground scale.
Yeah. And, having the chance to play with the author of the book that the game is based off of was pretty cool, too.
That is also true. Now you can play with Greg from Gamers with Coffee because that dude loves Team Yankee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put on a Team Yankee tournament or Team Yankee game at March to Victory this past year.
Yes, he did. I need to introduce him to the wonderfulness of 6 millimeter.
I mean, I would certainly help you put together, because see that runs right back to what we are always talking about with playing Flames of War and everything else, using maybe even the Flames of War rules in 6 mil with 3/4 inch, 1 inch, and 1 1/4 inch washers instead of these small, medium, and large bases, right?
Yeah.
Like, it would still be cool. You could still do it. You could still, account for the base sizes. Not that the base sizes were that big of a deal.
Right.
Unless you were real gamey about stuff, it super duper wasn't. But mainly because for the most part, Battlefront never super duper specified a lot of sizes, especially for intermediate stuff like gun teams and whatnot. It was really kind of, for a good while there, it was whatever bases they put into the boxes, and then however you chose to set your miniatures up on that base. Like, I've got a bunch of old Pack 40 that are mounted long ways on medium bases because they gave me medium bases in the box, and that's the only way I could get the wheels and the trail to fit on the base.
Right, exactly.
But that used to be what, Pack 40s came with. But, that's just the fun of the game, right? Or something like that.
Yep.
But, anyhow, I got to get going, Chris. I will.
All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead. I know we came on late and it's not quite 10 o'clock yet, but I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up for the evening. Guys, I want to thank y'all for your patience tonight. Like I said, I had to get some things taken care of. McMurray is out, so be safe out there, brother. Take care of yourself. Hopefully, Mr. Reese will have a better week next week, and will be able to hop on with us. And maybe Warmutt will eventually be able to cut the apron strings and be able to come on. So anyway, guys, So yes, Scalar Gremlin. Galactic Heroes was a godsend for me when it came out. So oh, I was reading. Brian says, "Mark my chat. I will join next Wednesday. I just got the okay for it." So there you go. So yeah, it's good for me, and it allows me to be able to play with all the nifty figures that I've got from Skullforge that they they still don't have, characters for uh, in Legion. So it works out. Ninguea starts getting silly this time of night. Yes, he does, Mike. Ninguea says, "You know me far too well, Mike." Yes. And then he goes on to say, "You are the mega bomb, not Jay." Meandering Mike referring to Reese with the gobble gobble. I love the news saying I might not be moving turkeys, but I still have a lot going on. Yep, absolutely. So, guys, I want to thank everybody once again for being patient with me tonight. Thanks for coming and seeing me. It is greatly appreciated. So, next week, I might actually come up with an actual topic to talk about. Not sure yet, but we will definitely be seeing you next Wednesday, and we'll see you on the flip side.